The Pirelli World Challenge Championships return to the mountainous high desert beauty of the Great Salt Desert as the fleet touring cars attack the unique challenges of Utah Motorsports Campus. It's high speed, high elevation, high temperature excitement at the Grand Prix of Utah, and it starts now. Hi, everybody, and welcome to Utah Motorsports Campus, a gem carved out of the Great Salt Desert, and it has always produced some amazing challenges, and today we play host to rounds 9 and 10 of the Pirelli World Challenge Touring Car Championship, and this, of course, is the Pirelli World Challenge Grand Prix of Utah. Great to have you with us here. I am Greg Creamer. Alongside is Calvin Fish. Gino Carini will be down in the pit lane covering all the action for us. And tell you what, this place has always produced some unique challenges, Calvin. 4 rounds left in the Touring Car Championship, 104 points on the line. There's plenty of points to make up for the deficits that we see in this championship, but we're getting near the end of this. It's go time.
It really is. I think today is a pivotal day. It's moving day. You use a golf analogy there, but I think for the front row here today, they have to score a bunch of points over Vesko Kozrov. He's got a handy points lead right now, sitting at 15 points, but that can go away in a heartbeat, as we've seen, with any kind of mechanical issues, and I think that's on the forefront of everyone's mind here in these extreme temperatures, Greg. Will my car get through this 40-minute event unscathed and actually score some good points here today?
And you're absolutely right as you take a look at the field getting ready to go for this 40-minute sprint event. This is a unique day, qualifying this morning and now getting ready to race. And interestingly, you talked about what they need to do with Kozrov. Well, he could only muster a third-place effort in qualifying. Was he being conservative, saving tires? Is that all he has? Johann Schwartz obliterating the field, Cal, by 0.6 of a second.
Yeah, I just spoke to him as he was getting in his race car, and he just said one lap pace is one thing. How we do over a 40-minute run here, he doesn't expect a lot of caution. There's a lot of runoff area here at Utah Motorsports Campus, so he expects a green flag race, and he said we haven't done enough long runs to really gauge what the tire degradation factor may be.
Well, and also in that qualifying run, all the way down this 3/4 mile front straight, he got a great tow on that lap from Jason Clooney, was able to slide by him clean down into turn 1. And I think that might account for a chunk of that margin. So I think it's a little closer, certainly, than it appears. And as you said, who knows? They qualified in the very cool of the morning. Temperatures are starting to build here. And this track, the warmer it gets greasy. And that's a big story. But we talked about Johann Schwartz and the lap he was able to put together out there. It was a flyer. 2-minute 3.648 second lap, a new track record, and .620 clear of the field. So it was a brilliant lap, no question about it. But as you said, what can he do here to be able to hustle that at this stage?
Yeah, you're in the right spot. Sorry, with my new in-ears, I can't hear shit. No.
So the field getting ready to go, and it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out, because right now the team car to Vesko Kozrov, Paul Terry, sits in 5th. We've seen good speed from him this year. Be interesting to see. Obviously, the team is based here. Terry's no doubt got some laps around this place. I think he's going to be somebody to keep an eye on.
Yeah, he could certainly be a spoiler in this, because you got the top 3 in the championship sitting 1, 2, 3 on the grid, not in the correct order, of course, with Kozrov back on the second row of the grid. But Paul Terry certainly shown speed this year, has had a couple of podium finishes, so he could definitely get up in the mix. And Matt Travis, so consistent, he rounds out the second row there. 7 top 5s this year, plus a couple of podiums at VIR.
And interestingly, Sean Quinlan, who topped the second practice session in that number 19 entry that he drives for Stephen Cameron Racing in qualifying, slipped back a little bit into 9th, which would indicate that maybe his car's good in the warmer conditions. It was hot yesterday afternoon when he topped that session, but a little bit off maybe in the qualifying. He might be somebody to watch coming up through the back here. So some good stories that are unfolding here, no question about that. But right now, it is time for us to get to the front of the grid where Gino Carini is standing by with the gentleman who will give us our start command.
On behalf of Pirelli Tires and Pirelli North America, here for the most famous commands in motorsports is Florian Peter from BMW Motorsports.
Drivers, start your engines.
And this field's come to life, somewhat fitting that a representative from BMW with a BMW sweep of the front row is going to set this one underway. One of the things that we're seeing here yesterday, Cal, the day was very warm but very little wind. Today it is windy, and we're seeing anytime a car drops a tire, it's raising huge clouds, blowing it across the track. There's some construction work going on. That's going to have to be something they're going to be paying attention to. I think that leads us nicely into the Pirelli storyline.
Yeah, and there we see Whitmer there sitting on the outside of the front row. Why is that significant? Well, there's a bonus point for the poles. We would have loved to have got that pole position and closed that gap down to Kozrov, who's 15 points ahead in this championship.
Yeah, at this stage of the game, anything, obviously, is crucial as the field rolls off to get going here on this pace lap. Rolling start today. Of course, second round of the weekend is always a standing start, and that gives its own challenges, but that happens tomorrow. As we're watching the field make its way out. Ed Pasquale, the official, waving them on. And 40 minutes here, and this is one of the classes where you start the race on the tires you qualify on. And that was one of the big stories. You look at Johann Schwartz, the number of laps he did relative to some of the other people out there, a lot less, because that time came in a hurry for him. That could be big later in the race.
Yes, and we've seen, if we go back even to the last rounds of the championship at Portland, Kozrov came back at Johann in the very latter stages, having had that early off and swept the weekend ultimately, which has given him this points gap. So that's very much on Johann's mind. He's a savvy guy, though. He's very intelligent, drives a great pace with the car, but is also thinking at the same time, and that really differentiates the fast and the really good, accomplished races in terms of winning championships.
Absolutely. Race analysis track, 15 counted corners here, just a little over 3 miles in length. Good size field, lots of challenges here in Gino. There's a couple of challenges here that these drivers are going to have to face just with the temperatures.
Absolutely, Greg, Cal. It's hot, it's windy, and it's dusty. And a lot of the guys have been talking about the dust, tire degradation, which I feel like we've talked about every single weekend, but this weekend in particular, I talked to the guys in Classic BMW with Carl Whitmer. Carl is going for it. He's not preserving tires. He said, I'm going in from the beginning. I'm going straight to the front right away.
And that obviously plays into what you were talking about, Cal, being go time and looking for anything you can possibly get at this stage of the championship. But there you can see the heat haze that's coming off of this track. You push too hard early, you've got nothing left late.
Yeah, absolutely. You've got to be smart about this. It's only 40 minutes, the shortest duration that we have in Pirelli World Challenge formats. But even so, it's a long run on these tires. They do a great job, the Pirelli P0s, but you can abuse them. The big key is balance in a race car, Greg. Right. If you've got balance, you're not working one end over the other of the race car, and that will certainly be a key factor today. And also, as we looked at that heat haze coming through those last couple of corners, that's where the majority of the construction is going on with this motocross track that's being built currently. And with the wind this morning, we can see in qualifying just these big sandstorms kind of blowing across there. Drivers left to be on their toes and feeling out the grip, particularly through the corner up front straightaway.
And this is the second of the attitudes, and you can see that big tire bundle there. In the past, you've been able to cut that curb. It's a huge advantage, but it's brutally rough. And they put those tire bundles up there, and one of the stewards joked, and we didn't tell you which bundles we filled with sand, so stay away from them. And it seems to be a pretty effective tool right now.
Well, it will change your attitude.
Exactly. You get to bad attitude before you get to bad attitude there.
You can still run the curbs. You got to set up for a little bit of it. Stopped. I mean, a couple of years ago, we just saw guys just literally going straight over the top.
Exactly.
So it's eliminated that factor, certainly.
All right, lights are out on our safety vehicles, so we will be going green this time, rolling start. And Johann Schwartz in that yellow and blue livery, West Virginia University, pole-sitting Rooster Hall Racing BMW. Whitmer alongside in that blue and white classic BMW. Kozarov in the pale blue and white Nissan from Reardon to the inside. Here we go, onto the front straight. Watch for the green flag to fly. And, boy, Johann, he got a nice little start.
Now he slowed down, and that's caused the big concertina effect. Did we get a green even?
I don't know that we did. I never saw one fly. So they waved it off.
Yeah, he was just way ahead. You could see him changing gears in the acceleration zone. So the car squat down as he grabbed another gear. So he was on it early. And he'd like to get that clean air, Greg. These cars are most efficient with their cooling and what have you when they're in clean air versus being tucked behind another car. So when you get behind, you may see guys electing not to take the draft effect. You got this massively long front straightaway here where you can pick up a massive tow, but with that, you're not getting air to those front radiators.
That's a very good point. Let's take another look here at that start. And when they were coming through the last two corners, great names, wind up and release. And there's a banking in that last corner, but he rolled out of it, and he was already car length and a half clear, wasn't he?
He was. This is just a little bit later when I saw the rear squat down as he grabbed another gear. Problem was a little bit further back in the pack there. Terry had to juke out from behind Vesco because he'd kind of seen the situation and eased off the pedal.
And the other, talking about the heat, you got the obvious effect on tires and the like, but we're at 4,500 feet of elevation, so the air's thin to start with. The hotter it gets, the thinner it gets. So it's tougher to cool engines, it's tougher to cool brakes. But what little aero you have is vastly affected as well.
Yeah,
too.
you do.
So
the air is not as dense, so those wings and the cars are basically aerodynamic shaped at the front end to create a little bit of downforce as well. Obviously, the rear wing is the most effective, but yes, you're not going to have the grip that you're looking for. So everything is working against you. It's an extreme challenge for the drivers to keep the car on the circuit and for the tires to keep up with them.
So now Johann's got to lead him around again, this time without a safety vehicle up front. And part of it is when he goes, but also there is a responsibility for the other driver in the front row. If Johann is maintaining the correct pace, the other guys have to stay with him. You can't blame Johann if he's got the right pace and people are lagging a little bit. So we'll see how this is going to play out here just a little bit. And instructions coming from race control right now, and all the teams are supposed to monitor, and they're telling everybody, start pairing up now, let's make this a clean one, and let's get this race going. Clock started as soon as they went by start-finish, so they're just eating into race time when this kind of thing happens anyway.
They are, and maybe that was part of his strategy. You're knocking time off the board, and he doesn't have to go as far on those tires on a green flag run. So we talk about him being smart. It's like, if they let me go, I've got the lead into turn one. If they don't let me go, and a yellow lap basically takes twice as long as a green flag lap, so he's cutting time off the clock.
And he's already ahead of the game in terms, as we talked about, getting less laps on those tires in qualifying. So here we go, into release one more time. You can see the banking. It's pretty substantial on that corner. And this time, let's see if Whitmer stays. And Johann keeps the margin. Looks a little bit more stable this time. Green flag flies. We are racing. And look at this. Kozarov coming up, trying to split the two BMWs. And Schwartz trying to feint to the right just a little bit to dissuade him. And we'll see what happens here. This Nissan has always had pretty good legs. And Kozarov trying to get to the lead. Cal Schwartz doing everything he can. Kozarov swings way out, looking for an outside move.
Johann does not want to give it to him. He wanted the lead of this motor race, but Kozarov is working him over big time. He tried to get back over on line to get the wide entry and turn-in point for turn one. He just cleared Whitmer. That was there's a spin in the middle of the pack. Through turn two.
And gathered it up again. I think that's the 87 of Henry Schmidt, and also involved the number 20 of Nimkov in the Auto Technic BMW. But so much runoff here, unless there's contact with another car, oftentimes there's no issue, and everybody will be able to continue. But, oh boy, drive-through penalty for the 80 of Johann Schwartz. Jump start once again is what we're hearing from race control. Wow.
That is huge. Particularly if we factor in we're expecting this to go green.
Yep. And the angle we had from the tail, you couldn't see if you went way early, and then the green flag flew. Wow, look at him hit that curb, working up into the attitudes. And
he's hooked up. He's got the car underneath him, but he's got a big hole to dig his way out of right now. Going to lose about 22 seconds coming down pit lane to the field staying on track at green. And the bigger problem is he's then going to fight his way through traffic to even get back to the leaders. Only way he can get back in the game, if he does have to serve this penalty, Greg, is to get some kind of reset with a caution. Otherwise, he's going to struggle to get on the podium with the fastest car right now.
Wow, yeah, huge development here. And, of course, for Whitmer, he's going to be super frustrated that Kozarov got in front of him, the guy that he's chasing in the points. And Johann's coming in. He's got to control the red mist here and not get himself another penalty with excess speed in pit lane. He can hustle it all he wants up to, there's a marker right there that he sees, and there he's got to be at the pit speed. This is huge.
It is massive. You can just see the field is compressed on these opening laps, so he'll drop to the back of the pack. Even with the guys that spun around, I think they'll still clear him. Kozarov now. This is his local track, Greg. He knows it like the back of his hand.
Yes, he does.
He had to be a little bit frustrated after qualifying to not even see his car on the front row, but even so, he's got the championship lead. He's got the guys closest to him right behind. He can control him in his mirrors. Look at the dust and sand kicking up there through turn two.
It is so breezy here today, and just the slightest bit. And of course, some of the sand just sits loose. Look at this. I mean, nobody's been running through that portion of the track. That's just the wind that's dusting that up just a little bit. And I'll tell you, Whitmer's staying right with him. It's not like he's letting Kozarov get too far ahead.
Well, I think this should be a good battle based on the pace they've been showing in qualifying and so far this weekend. Johan definitely looked like he had the pace in qualifying by a substantial margin, as you related to, Greg. Over 0.6 of a second is huge in this form of competition, even on a relatively long racetrack. You can see there, Whitman not tucking into the exact same line of Kozarov. He's looking for air to the front end of that BMW. I think he'll just bide his time. Just try and sit there and let the minutes unfold a little bit.
Just sort of reference Kozarov, keep everything underneath him. Got to give a huge shout out here to Richard Zulman, who this is his first start in pro racing period. Teammate to Johann Schwartz in the number 82 one-bar Rooster Hall Racing BMW entry. And first ever start in this. He's done a lot of BMW Club and NASA stuff. Started in chump car racing, making his first start, qualified 11th. He's 6th. And I saw him make a big move when that green came out. He went to the inside. He timed it beautifully. And he has, right now, I think he's got a golden opportunity to possibly be our VP Racing Fuels Hard Charger Award. That was a great opening lap. He's got inside now a Paul Terry. This is for 5th. Zulman is racy today.
He is looking really strong. Obviously, the team have good setups based on you. Oh, was there a little touch there? I think there may have been with Terry and Zulman there coming off the final corner. Now, this is like the ultimate dyno run down this front straightaway, and there we see Johann Schwartz just getting on the front straightaway as the leaders are going through turn 1.
And what he wants to do is stay in front of anybody in this group he can.
Move there, just had that inside line, and sometimes the guy on the outside will try and take that wide radius and carry speed. You got to be respectful of one another through that corner. Richard yesterday, and used to be a neighbor of Lee Diffie's.
That's right, he was, wasn't he?
The commentary teams of years past, so.
Yep, originally from South Africa, and having a good thing. But I'll tell you, Zulman, we talked about him maybe getting the Hard Charger Award. There was no question he was going to get the Optima Batteries Best Start Award. 5 spots he made up in that opening lap from where he qualified. So that's some impressive stuff. Now, Paul Terry's been able to get back around him and has resumed that top 5 spot. But Zulman, a very competitive 6. But, boy, he's got company around him, doesn't he? You've got the number 19 there of Quinlan, who was so fast in that one practice session. And a former winner this year, Steve Strymer, in that number 23 Tech Sport. Strymer, a Sheet Metal Works Nissan, right there as well. This could be a pretty tasty battle this whole race.
This will be fun, and I think with Zulman, he'll be learning quickly what it takes to be successful in Pirelli World Challenge, but he's right in the thick of the action right now.
Well, the one thing he may want to watch is that time through that second attitude, they call it, which is the one with the tire bundle on that big curb, the way Terry squared that off and straightened it out a lot more than Zulman did, which gets you such a run down through bad attitude and into the Tuella turn. And I think he saw that maybe this time and said, all right, I'm going to have to figure that one out, because that could really change it a bit.
Yeah, you got to be careful, though, because suddenly if you start eating a bit more curb than you've done on previous laps, how your suspension is set up and how it'll handle that under severe compression of the loading going through that corner. You don't want to bite off too much. You can inch up on it a little bit as he now takes that middle of the road. He's certainly entitled to do that and choose his line, be proactive, not reactive.
I think he maybe moved back over a little too soon. And that gave Strymer an opportunity to come up. Now it's, can you will it around the outside?
Someone takes it.
He does. Good man.
He's showing some good racecraft here.
Sure is.
Certainly not intimidated by the action that he's in and showing really good lines.
He probably loaded up on some One Energy bars and all that protein and stuff here before the race started. Yeah, doing a superb job. And here's Strymer. This is now the battle for 6th. As I said, Terry and the 33 Nissan just up front there.
Strymer got a run on it.
Yeah, he did.
Looked to the inside into Blackrock. Great overtaking opportunity there. Heavy braking, low speed corner. That's what every racetrack should have. Plenty of those. Makes it exciting.
This is a fun turn. You know, Blackrock, you turn in and then it opens up. The increasing radius corner. The problem is you get to this next one here, the exact opposite. And if you get too tight to the turn in there, you're just crawling. And this section of Witchcraft is quicker than it seems.
It really is. You carry a lot of speed through there, and I think these cars should be pretty much flat out through this high-speed sweeper, but then giving yourself enough time to set up for the attitudes. It's so important that you don't get too far left right there.
Yep.
And you can't get back over to the right to transition through these
now watch
really cool set
Terry.
of corners.
See how much he squares that? And
Yeah.
Zulman stays completely off that curb, and he loses 2 car lengths right there.
See the other BMW behind, but it does really unsettle the car, and you've got to be comfortable with that. As you're coming downhill, everything's a bit light, and here's Schwartz. He is on the charge.
Indeed. It's turned to 2:05.2 on that last lap, which is seconds quicker than anybody in that group he's chasing at this stage.
Kozrov has the fastest lap at a 2:05.17, so just a sniff quicker than Johann Schwartz at this stage of the game. So Johann would like to clear a little bit more of this traffic, and then, you know, like 10 minutes to go or something, somehow catch a yellow and get back in the game.
Absolutely. Remember, those fast laps in this race important. It determines where you start in round 8 of the championship tomorrow, so you've got to have your head in that game.
Saw a lot of steering input in the car as he came through that final corner, Greg, right at apex. Looked like he had massive understeer in the car. He's the drift king, so he can drive anything if he can deal with understeer as well, but you don't want to be grinding on the right front tire.
Right. Said round 8 tomorrow. Of course, it's round 10. These guys have a busy year. It's a 12-round championship for them. And interesting to see here now. Schwartz is going to be catching. I mean, he should have caught Schmidt and Quinlan at this stage. This battle with Zulman, though, is impressive. As he's now completely driven away. Zulman has from Strymer and Quinlan. Very impressive what I'm seeing from Richard Zulman.
He's having fun.
Yeah,
and now he's got the heat off the tail end of him in terms of the competition. He can now focus on Terry and see if he can just come back at him again. Time management is going to be key. He keeps pushing hard, finding a few more tenths maybe, but don't burn the tires off whilst you're doing it.
I think Schwartz just got Henry Schmidt for 9th going into the Blackrock hairpin. He did. Just flashes through the frame right there. So Schwartz now has caught this group, and it's a matter of how quickly he can, as you said, get through them. Up front, Whitmer is still within a second of Kozarov. Travis another 1.5 seconds back. And then Clooney within about 2 seconds, but then the gap back to Terry. So those front 4 right now, as you said, they're gone, and it's going to be important for anybody to have a shot at these guys to have some sort of a caution. But this group of 3 is the proverbial blanket.
It really is. You see Whitmer again just not running the same line as Kozarov, even on these short acceleration runs between the corners. So I've got to feel that he's just monitoring his temps and making sure he's got some in hand. Oh, a little bit wide there. Travis is really close to Whitmer right now.
Yeah, he is. And Travis will race him. These guys, they're from the same team, but you know, this is a customer program, and you come in and you're paying your money to race her, you're going to go for it.
Same thing with Travis. Look, he's not ducking. It's like there are 3 different lines coming down the straightaway. Quite unique there. But maybe what he's doing, Greg, he's trying to get enough margin so when he does get close to Kozarov, maybe he can afford to have a couple of laps tucked right in between, behind his rear bumper and work him over a little bit. If you can get that temperature reading currently down a little bit underneath your threshold, rather than being right there, that will allow him a bit more time to sit in the draft if he wants to use it.
And the temperature right now, and of course, one of the things that I've discovered lately is the weather depends on which app you're looking at. But right now, the one that I look at and tend to trust says it's 91 with a real feel of 102, which tells you what the temperature is out there and what these guys are dealing with. And there's temperature inside the helmets as well, you would think, after that problem at the start. Gino, what have you heard officially from pit lane?
Well, I talked to Eric Meyer, who is the crew chief for Johann Schwartz, and what he told me was that the penalty, the drive-through penalty he received, was because he wasn't lined up perfectly next to the P2 car. He also apparently jumped the flag start. So I think Johann is trying his best to get out in front of, I think, the Nissan, and I think that he did whatever he could do, and he just got a little bit antsy on this one.
And right there, you can see that was the first start, and Johann went. He looked like he was lined up, but he was in, positionally, but was in front of, and he definitely went a little early. It was tough for us to see that second restart where they went green, which is where I would think that penalty would have come from.
Well, you got the eyeballs on you after the first one, so if there was any indiscretion on the second one, he may have got away with it if that was the initial stop after the wave off, and then maybe not quite correct on the second one. That was too much for the stewards to stomach.
I think that's exactly what it was. And so here comes Schwartz now as he continues his charge up on the 19 of Quinlan, the Stephen Cameron Racing entry. And indeed got clarification it was for jumping the second start again. is what he got the penalty for. If they waive it off, that's a waive off. If they, the second time, oftentimes they'll go, well, we're not going to penalize everybody else in terms of race time. We'll go green and then issue a penalty. And Johan right here, hungry, wants to get through and get by Quinlan as fast as he can.
Yeah, he needs to be efficient. He can't afford to waste too much time getting through this traffic, not take any unnecessary risk, of course. And he kind of poked his nose in there a little bit late in the game, and I think that hurt his momentum on the front straightaway. And again, you see another competitor coming down this front straightaway, Greg, not trying to take the draft effect.
Absolutely. It is toasty. Always mindful of that as we are 23 and 40 seconds of race time left to go, so coming up on the halfway point. And in these temperatures, that last 20 minutes can seem like an hour, I would think.
Yeah, absolutely. They're going to be wringing wet at the end of this one. But it's a dry heat, Greg.
Exactly. Except for the pool of sweat you're sitting in. It's fine. So Johan has some work to do. And sure, he's going to be frustrated here. He's looking for some really good momentum. As interesting opportunities. The September 22nd, they're going to be taking that West Virginia University BMW to the home football game for West Virginia U against Kansas. And they put together a great partnership this year with the SA engineering students. 2 of their interns for the SAE program are part of the team. One of them is not only a mechanical engineering student, but an aerospace engineering student. So they got some bright minds working with that Rooster Hall team as we go to this battle for second between the 2 classic BMW entries. And Travis has drifted backwards just a little bit now, and he was all over him, as you said, but as now, last time by, was a little over half a second off of Whitmer and Clooney. You can still see him in the background watching.
Yeah, I'm curious to watch Whitmer coming through these last couple of corners, wind up and release. He gets way over to there, and right there, look, he turns in really late, just tries to square off the corner. To me, initially when I saw it, it looked like he's missed the turning point, but I think it's actually his line now with a better look at it all the way through the corner. He just focuses on getting his hands straight and able to get back on the power early and not scrub the front tires at that point of the corner.
There's a look at Jason Clooney, currently running 4th.
He's having a good run.
Yeah, he is. 7 cars here. Sorry about that, Cal. 7 cars here from Classic BMW, most of them in this touring car category. But you're right about Jason Clooney. We've seen him put up some pretty solid runs this year. Certainly been on pace.
Well, they run in order of the pace so far. Kozrov leads his fastest lap at 2:05.1. Whitmer second at 2:05.2. Travis third at 2:05.3. Clooney fourth at 2:05.4. So there you have it.
Not too shabby. And then it's still Paul Terry sitting in the 5th spot behind Clooney. But there's the margin that Clooney has up to this group. And he's working at trimming that down just a little bit. He was 2.4 last time by. It looks a bit closer than that now. Here comes Terry. And that is teammate to Vesko Kozrov. That's another Reardon Racing and Nismo Nissan that he has. The Paul Terry trucking machine. And then behind him, you can see that battle. Strymer has run down Zulman now. That battle is pretty serious. Zulman way wide.
There.
Yeah. And here comes Johan.
I wonder if they're giving him radio communication that Johan is pretty close there. And any little thing like that can suddenly get you off your game a little bit. You just lose focus, and around these corners here that come up on you so quickly, you just get behind. And you've got to find that line again and get back into the rhythm and the sequencing of the corner. Look at Johan there working the outside line. That's a brave boy right there.
It is, and he got through. Quinlan recognized that Johan got the run, let him through. So that was smart racecraft by Quinlan. If he'd fought that, that's when you could end up with some contact. And it was a good move. And for Zulman, they came here and ran there was a NASA event here last weekend. It was a 6-hour endurance race, and they came here and ran it so that he'd get some knowledge of the track and also of this car. Because the car he races, the BMW in BMW Club, he said it's a much more modified car with a lot more aero on it. And he said, I needed to get a little time, 1, to learn this track, but 2, to get an understanding of this car, and that's paying big dividends right now.
It really is. It's a really solid run. I'm sure he's having fun. He's running the thick of a battle. And we see Johan again. Really a lot of steering input at the apex. And look at that, just swings out way wide to pick up that clean air to the front end of his car. He's pretty much been in traffic here for the last 5-10 minutes, and he's probably in preservation mode now in terms of his engine.
I think so. And Zulman using up all the track. Exiting release, he got to the outside edge of that curve.
Strimer's got a problem.
He sure does.
Just dropped like a rock right there. That was strange.
Yeah. Well, they have that, when things get hot in these production-based cars, like these touring cars, they've got that engine preservation mode. And that'll just suddenly, the car will just lay down on you a little bit, won't it?
Yeah, that could be going on. I'm not sure how the Nissan factors in with that issue, but certainly with the BMWs and a lot of other manufacturers, it can be a potential problem. And it's just a threshold that is created, and the electronics just basically richen everything up and just make sure that you're not getting full power.
And you can see Johan there was just giving Thulman just I'm here, so when I get close, let me slide through as we go back up to the lead. Boy, and this battle continues. I mean, these top three right now are covered by a second as they come through. This is good stuff.
It really is, and I love to be thinking about what's the psyche in the helmets right now. How much is Kozlov controlling this? How much is Whitmer controlling his pace and managing his tires?
Well, maybe we can get an answer on what's unfolding with classic BMW from our man Gino Carini.
Well, I think right now the race is obviously going on, and Vesco seems to be controlling it at the front. But internally what's going on, which is really interesting to me personally because I used to be on this team, is that they've got a little internal contest between the crew chiefs. Jason Clooney, Matt Travis, and Carl Whitmer's crew chiefs are all sitting up on the box, kind of playing the waiting game each other's, waiting to see what happens. But they're all looking for their driver to take over and win this one.
Now you got to love that, a little intra-team competition, and all that does is just makes everybody run better and faster generally.
Yeah. Winning crew chief doesn't have to pay for the beer tonight.
That's a big team. That's a costly go. It's one thing when you got a 2-car team. You got a 7-car team. And still, Clooney, he just continues to lap. He's putting in good laps, there's no question, and he's kept that margin at about 2.5 seconds for the last number of laps. Doesn't seem to be able to do much to reduce it, but certainly isn't letting it grow. However, they continue to lap significantly quicker than the group behind them, led by Terry in 5th, as they're running times generally, Cal, about a second or so quicker.
Yeah, leaders are running like low 6s now, which is almost a second off their best of the race, so that'll certainly be the heat factor right there, but they're running identical lap times. I mean, the top 4 are only separated by 1/10 of a second on their last lap in terms of speed, so it seems like everyone's pretty much just controlling things, probably monitoring the clock. 16, 17 minutes to go here. I think you get knock out another 5-10 minutes here, Greg, and then I think it'll be go time. People start to show their hand a little bit more.
Up and through the attitudes, this lead trio goes. Whitmer, that apex curve and that bad attitude, the last of the 3 attitude corners, he is a little more aggressive on that than the others. But if you got the car set up to deal with it.
Yeah, I think so, and that may be just what you're talking about there, Greg, in terms of the car setup, because Travis doesn't use as much. He doesn't use as much curbing through Tuella corner either, which puts him a little bit further out onto the curbage as you come up. It's a lot flatter curb. It doesn't have the the massive high frequency compression on the shock.
All right, onto the front straight. One more time, take a look at the margins. It was 0.8 from Kozarov to Whitmer, and it's still 0.8. So these guys are just continuing, as you said. I mean, look at the difference in those lap times here. Whitmer was quicker by a massive 6/1000ths of a second on that lap. I mean, this is close stuff.
It really is, and Schwartz is still trying to find a way around his teammate on debut with the team there. Zullman still leads Schwartz by just 0.3 of a second, but now he's got around him. Looking at timing and scoring, there it is. Schwartz finally makes that move.
And now you can see his next person he wants to come after here is going to be Paul Terry for 5th. That's
probably about the best he can do, Greg. Sorry about that.
Yeah, no.
In terms of catching on pace here today, any other positions, because the top 4 are a long way down the road. You see Zullman there just drop a wheel a little bit as he comes through turn 1.
It's going to be interesting to see here. It's a pretty sizable margin, like you talked about. And Zullman now, as Strymer has run him back down again.
I wonder if Zullman really slowed down through the final sequence of corners coming on that front straightaway to let his teammate by, because that's really allowed Strymer and company right back on his tail.
Well, if you're in a close battle, and again, he's got a little different line there, but if you open the wheel up to let somebody get through on you, and it just gets you offline a little bit, especially with the sand and debris on this track, you get out in that a little bit, and suddenly you're gripless for the next couple of corners. Quinlan's got ideas here too, doesn't he?
Everyone's getting a taste for it.
Under 15 minutes, so basically into the final third of this one.
Yeah, other than that spin that we saw on the opening few corners, it's been a pretty clean race so far. You can really race each other hard here and go side by side through a number of these corners. If you start getting into the bodywork, that means you're being super aggressive because there's plenty of room.
Well, as you said, after talking to Johan, he said that the likelihood of this being a green flag race is very high at this facility oftentimes. And so you better have a plan for that.
Curious to see what sort of lap time Johan can run here. Now he's effectively in clean air once again. How much of his life is left in the tires. Saw the lead has dipped down into the 205s on the last lap. This should be a relatively clean lap for Johan Schwartz. So we'll monitor his time as he's now coming up to the stripe.
Well, that's a good point. I mean, he still, I think, has the second fast lap, does he not, at a 2:05.23?
Yes, he does.
So, but he'd sure like to find an extra tenth and see if he can't find himself
a point and the pole. Zulman continuing to keep Strymer at bay there. There's a lot of speed in there. You can hear the tires screaming for mercy.
This is such a fun battle here, and you forget it's for seventh. These guys are racing so hard. It's one of the great things about this touring car class is you find somebody or some buddies out there that you are running similar times with, and the battles are great. Schwartz clicks through under the bottom. Strymer looks down to the inside. Ooh, big wiggle under the brakes.
Yeah, he just had to use a little bit more brake pressure there as he was just turning in and nearly lost the rear end. It was a nice save there. He was obviously trying to make sure he didn't get into the side of the BMW.
Looked like some good awareness there by Zulman, too, because as that back end stepped out for Strymer, he didn't turn in suddenly on him like he might normally have. I'm impressed with what I'm seeing by Richard Zulman.
We talked about Schwartz's last lap, clean lap. It was a 2.64, so that was about 0.6 off of Kozarov, but again, he's had to use those tires up, battling his way through the pack. He was about 9/10 quicker than Terry, and he's about, just under 4 seconds behind. So he should have enough time here to catch Terry. Then it should be a good little battle for that 5th position.
And one of the things here, I think it's going to be fun to watch these guys next time into Black Rock, because I think what we're seeing is Strymer is seeing that sort of slightly different line that Zulman uses in the Black Rock, and it's an opportunity, but you've got to still execute the pass, and I think he's trying to figure out how to get that done. Meanwhile, up front, Vesko Kozarov continues to control things here at the front, and I think Gino Carini has found that Reardon Racing team, Gino.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm here with Laura Reardon, Laura Tolman, the team owner for Reardon Racing. And Laura, I talked before the race about, but we talked a little bit about a superstition that you may have right now regarding championship implications of today's race.
Well, there's really just too many other things to think about and make sure we do a good job this weekend. So like I said, I haven't done the math. I don't know when the championship will be wrapped up, in fact, but we'll just try and have a good finish this weekend. And
I think that's the key, is they want to have a good weekend, they want to have a safe finish, but I love the fact that she refuses to even do the calculations.
Yeah, I think that's, there's certainly that little bit of nervousness when you start playing that game a little bit, and if the guy that you're dealing with is leading, he's doing what he needs to do for the championship.
Much more than that, right? Let the chips fall behind him. And he caught a big break though with Johan, jumping that start. I thought otherwise it could have been a different picture we're looking at right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Nice to see that smile on Laura's face. Last time we had an interview with her at Portland, it was after Vesko had that moment and had the off and dropped back in the pack a little bit. Came back with a brilliant drive to win the thing again. And he's certainly capable of that. He's a mighty fine, talented driver. We've seen him in a variety of different series, and everywhere he lands is fast.
There's some great drivers. I mean, there's guys learning the craft in this championship right now, but there's other guys who know the craft and they're putting it to good use. Guys like Whitmer, guys like Kozarov, guys like Schwartz. So this is fascinating to watch these guys, and I'm just really curious to see now we're under 10 minutes to go, whether Whitmer can start to put some heat on, literally, on Kozarov.
Well, he's been quicker than Kozarov the last couple of laps by very small margins, but last lap he was about a tenth quicker, and so he certainly still seems to have some pace in this BMW M235 IR.
Does Kozarov have any tricks up his sleeve, though? Does he have something he's not been showing or utilizing in terms of a little chunk of time that can gap him when he needs it?
Well, and of course on that start, we don't know whether he just got into the throttle a little sooner or whatever, but he certainly still seems to have some pretty good pull down that long straight. And the problem is for him, is that checkered flag. It comes up soon on that front straight. It's not well down.
Yep.
And so that's not necessarily going to be a savior type of scenario for him here.
But he had the mid-range. It looked like he had the mid-range acceleration, which would probably mimic coming off that final corner to the stripe. This
scrum here as Strymer's continuing to struggle. He's dropping back. You caught that. And he's dropped now behind not just Zulman, but the 19 of Quinlan and the 20 of Nimkov, who's come alive a little bit in that Auto Technic entry.
Yeah, I think Strymer must have some kind of intermittent, maybe engine preservation thing going on.
Oh, look at the 82 of Zulman. Ooh, had himself a little bit of a ride there, and then tires are dirtied up. Those P0s with sand on them.
Maybe he's scared Strymer.
That oh, back off just a little bit. He gathered up. Beautiful save.
He did, yeah. He hasn't been intimidated at all. Good little racer.
Yeah, it's fun to be. Yeah, it's enjoyable to watch this. And now playing into his hands beautifully is the fact that Nimkov has caught Quinlan. Nimkov in that green striped Auto Technic BMW is going to occupy Quinlan's mirrors for a little bit. And Zulman can just continue to hit his marks when he floats wide there.
Just got to maintain focus here.
Yeah. Well, the one thing that he talked about, he said, that I have very little experience on is these tires.
Right.
And he said, one of the problems is he said, I don't necessarily feel the fall off, perhaps as adroitly as people that have been racing on it all year. And I think that's what he might be struggling with here.
Yeah, as they start to just go away a little bit, recognizing that and just driving underneath that threshold is the key. Feeling the grip, just coming off the corner, not sliding at all, not getting any wheel spin out of the low speed stuff.
And up front, look at Schwartz. You talked about it. He has run Terry down. And that margin now is under a second, Cal.
Yeah, I thought he had enough time on the clock to get this into this position. Whether he can get around him is going to be the key factor.
Exactly.
It'll be a great recovery drive, but as we said, once he got that penalty without a reset, it's going to be tough to do anything to get on the podium today.
Yeah, Terry's last lap at 2:07.5 and Johann's at 2:06.4, and he's been just clipping those kind of laps. So this battle is definitely on here for a top 5 at this stage. Working through Black Rock hairpin. Now into this very tricky little decreasing radius corner that leads onto that quick section that connects the two outer loop courses, if you will, and makes, or the east and west course that makes this outer loop course, which I love the flow and speed of this one. And there you can see the Rd.9 racing crew really paying attention to what's going on here as Johann attacking on Paul Terry.
Yeah, he really is. He really carries
a lot of speed.
Yeah, he did. He missed it. Got locked up. Johann's not in a position to take advantage now. Can he set him up and square him off coming through the attitudes?
He got the run.
He looks to the inside. Probably not going to happen here. It's a tough corner to make a pass. He's got time, though. This isn't the last lap. He's got probably three and a bit more laps to work with.
And Johann's certainly savvy enough to know he's not going to make up the margin to that group of 4 up front with the time left. So let's just get through here, make that top 5. That's a great comeback drive, as you pointed out. And just try and hound Terry maybe into another mistake at a place that it's more opportune for him to take advantage of.
The reality is, unless there's an issue with one of the front 4, this is probably about as far as he can go, because even if it went yellow now, he wouldn't have enough time to get back to green. So this is it. Just focus in, focus ahead. You just see he just doesn't want any part of that draft. He must be right on the threshold there with his engine temperatures, Greg.
Yeah, it's about as far over as you can get. And smartly, though, before you get to the turn, moves back into the mirrors of Terry so that Terry knows where he is if he ever gets a little closer. We've seen that happen here before where somebody's so far to the inside going into one, he's out of the mirror range, and it never ends well.
No, I remember Michael Cooper and Alvaro Brent having an issue with that. And I think you're trying to get so far away. It's not just getting the air getting to the front of the car. It's the heat from the car in front of you as well. I mean, they're like little throbbing, heat generators in front of you. So the further you can get away from them, the better.
As we're coming up on 4 minutes left in this 40-minute event. Look at Kozarov just rotating through there.
He's styling right now. I think this is go time for him.
Yeah.
If he's got anything left, he's going to start to throw it at the track right now. He knows that if it goes yellow, he doesn't need to worry about saving tires. There's not enough time to go back to green.
Well, the last couple of laps, he's been quicker than Whitmer in this last lap by 2/10, and that margin's up to over a second now. So he's doing exactly what he needed to do.
4 wins on the year. Looking for his 5th.
Oh, and look at this. Johan able to sneak by on Terry. That's for 5th.
They've been working him over. Terry there, that Nissan just, what is that, mid-range? He tried to stick his nose in there. Wow. I'm like, he's not going to go for that, and I think he was.
Yeah, and if he got more up on that curve, I think he'd have bounced right into Johan.
See him weaving around a little bit. I think that's maybe try to clean off his tires. So maybe when Johan got by him, he got forced out a little bit wide and picked some of that debris and marbling that happens on the edge of the racetrack. Paul Terry's not giving up on this, is he?
No, he's not at all. And to the point that Johan has to protect going in to that last turn. And if nobody's behind you going into that release, as they call it, with the banking, you can late apex it and use the banking to launch down there. You've got somebody that's right behind you. You got to protect a little bit.
Yeah, you certainly do. And that then compromises your speed on the front straightaway. See Terry there, he's willing to take the drive. So been running by himself for a while in terms of no one directly in front of him. So his engine temps are probably pretty good. He's willing to try and pick up any drafting effect that he can get from Johan right in front of him.
And word from race control, white flag for Vesko Kozarov or whoever's leading next time by. And with Johan now through into 5th, and knowing it's going to be a heck of a charge to try and come up. And you can see this top 3 now. One, they've cleared Clooney. Clooney's dropped off a bit, but Whitmer has found speed. That last lap, Cal, he ran 2/10 quicker than Kozarov, and he's made up even more time in this lap. It's down to a couple of car lengths.
It really is. He's putting it all out there right now, trying to get a little bit closer, and maybe he'll be willing to pick up the draft effect down this front straightaway, but Kozarov will know that. It's almost like keeping someone out of the DRS zone in Formula One. You know what I mean? You want to keep them far enough back that they're not going to pick up the drafting effect. Look how much curbage that Whitmer was willing to take there out of Tuella corner.
You can see these are graduated curbs. The farther out you get, the little bit more aggressive they get. And it was pitching that classic BMW around, and he just kept her pinned. Yeah, the guy played professional hockey for a few years. Fear is not going to be something he's going to be dealing with too much here.
Now, you see him, he just really takes that big wide entry, gets his hands straight and back on the power early.
Here's the white flag. What's the margin at the line? It was 1 second last time, 0.7 this time.
Still not wanting to pick up that draft though, Greg.
No. I think that's key. You're very marginal on temps, huh?
Look at Kozarov all the way into the pit exit there to just try and widen that line through turn 1. You really float a lot of speed through there. I'll tell you what, he's close enough that Vesko's going to have to keep his eye in the mirror, maybe be a little bit compromising with his lines in these final few corners.
All right, here we go. Schwartz, that recovery drive up to 5th with Terry falling back a bit, so we go back up front to follow this battle. And tell you, Vesko got through the 2-3-4 complex pretty well, Cal. He opened up another length or two.
He did. It's like there's a magnetic force between the two cars. They can't quite close that gap down from Whitmer's perspective.
All right, here we go into, they call it right hook and knockout, and then into witchcraft.
You've always impressed me, Greg, when we came here for the very first time. You had those corner names down.
Oh, I studied, man.
I was struggling to know which end of the track we were on.
Well, with the reference points on this track being so vague, when we first came here, I'd look at the mountain range in the background just to go, okay, this got to be this turn. I mean, that's one of the challenges here is the reference. And here we go. Last time through the attitude.
Whitmer really. Was he able to keep on the power? That was the key.
Yeah.
Certainly willing to take all the curbs, but could he stay on the power? Really eats up that apex curb there in Tuella. He's close, but I think Kozarov may have enough margin. Does he have to protect? No, he doesn't. Just focus on hitting his marks.
Into clubhouse turn, they call it. Now home of the Radizio Brazilian Steakhouse. And here's wind up and release. Last time onto the front straight. Kozarov protecting Whitmer. He could try that wide line, but there's just not enough of a run. You can see the Reardon crew has run all the way down toward pit in to give the salute. And that is what, win number 5 for Vesko Kozarov on the year. Came in as the point leader. You don't play that one much better than that, and has stretched that margin out by, what, 3 points?
Yeah, we said it was potential moving day. Well, he moved further ahead, and for Johann Schwartz, he moved a lot further behind as we now watch him come through these final couple of corners.
Great recovery drive after that drive-through penalty, but for somebody who had been on pole by 0.6 of a second, 5th place is going to, I think, sit a little uncomfortably, Cal.
Yeah, it's really tough because this could be the final nail in those championship hopes.
Yeah.
But as we say in racing, nothing's over till it's over. You've got 3 more race starts, 3 more times you've got to get to the halfway point to score points in these races.
Here we go, the line, and Zulman, this last lap, both Quinlan and Strymer were able to figure a way through, and Zulman, who ran in the top 5 at 1.7 most of the race, slips to 9th. Oh, that's a real shame, but boy, for a debut event for Richard Zulman, I'm pretty impressed. So Quinlan in the 19 Stephen Cameron BMW ends up 7th. Strymer in the Tech Sport Strymer sheet metal Nissan ends up 8th. Zulman 9th in the 1-bar Rooster Hall BMW 9th. And Nimkov in the Autotechnic BMW brings it home to complete the top 10. But, I mean, the 2 big stories here, obviously, Schwartz from pole to jump start and dropping back. But the battle up front between the 2 points leaders, Kozarov and Whitmer, it was a tremendous battle. There's no question about that. And Whitmer certainly gave it his all late, but just not quite enough. So enjoying the cool down lap here by Vesko. Not as anywhere near as much as he is, I'm sure.
Oh, that's right. You see Travis there running really wide, just trying to get some pickup on his tires. And all of these cars have to go through post-race tech. Minimum ride height requirements have to be met, weight, and so on and so forth. So it's pretty typical these days to see cars after the checkered flag running offline, picking up a bit of debris, a little bit of weight maybe. I mean, those tires, as hot as they are right now, act like rolling a snowball in fresh snow. You will just continue to pick up some rubber.
And again, Travis staying right in the hunt, making it a 2-3 on the podium, with Clooney adding a 4th for the classic BMW team that have been doing just a superb job. And they're busy lads here this weekend, no question, with a bunch of cars, 7 of them in total, a couple in the GTS class that are going to be running. So here we go, the field making their way, heading into the... Kozarov ran just a little bit wide there. Maybe he wanted a little more junk on his tires, possibly. But drop those rights into the dirt. They make their way into pit lane. And we think it might be Jason Clooney at the end of this one in the number 27, who ends up, because of Zulman losing those 2 spots on that last lap, it's Jason Clooney up 4 spots. He's going to get the VP Racing Fuels Hard Charger Award. So nice job for Jason, who came from 8th in the field. He had a great start, Clooney did, while we were watching everything else that was going on. Worked his way up. And there's Vesko bringing that car. He's always run that very colorful helmet as he crawls out. And it's always special when you win at home, and this is now his home for sure. He's been here a while. And congrats to the crew.
He's a pretty cool cat.
Yeah, he is.
He just takes it all in his stride, but the passion and the fierceness behind the wheel is not to be messed with.
There's a look at the Black Rock hairpin, and here are the unofficial results. The podium, Kozarov, Whitmer, and Travis, with Clooney and Johann Schwartz with that comeback drive rounding out the top 5. Terry there in 6th, and again Zulman, who'd run 6th, 7th most of that race, It's losing a couple of spots late, and I think we had talked about it. Just not familiar enough with the tires to be able to conserve them enough early. And I think they just probably fell off on him at a bit of a surprising rate.
Yeah, for sure, but that's all part of the learning curve. That's why it's fun to have a doubleheader weekend, because you can process that tonight, look at the data, discuss starting tire pressures, maybe a slight chassis adjustment, and try and come back stronger for tomorrow.
And with that, it looks like Gino Carini is ready with our winner for the 5th time this year, Gino.
The 5th win of the year, Vesco. I talked to your team owner, Laura Tullman. We didn't want to talk about the championship implications and how great this is for your championship points lead. You're on your way. We're not going to say anything more about it. But great job out there. You were flying through the 2, 3, 4 section. The car was great. How did really, truly, what do you think it was that put you out front today?
A little bit of luck. Johan, a little bit of both. Thank you. The Rd.9 Nissan was fantastic as always. Spot on. We're a little bit hurting for speed this weekend, no doubt about it. Carl Whitman wore a good job. That guy never let up. I was always in danger, especially the last 15 or so minutes. We had no tires. This thing was on fire, on fire, on fire. But, yeah, nice work. Johan slipped on the start. That was an easy pass into the front for sure.
Yep. Well, they always tell you it's always skill, but a little bit of luck in racing. So congratulations, Johan. I'm sorry, Vesco, on your win.
Yeah, I mean, you take any advantage you can, and one, yes, there was obviously the penalty to Johan, but on that second start that they let fly, he had a great launch, and when he came up and he split those 2 BMWs and got in front of Whitmer, that wasn't luck. That was Kozarov.
Well, yeah, and I think he recognized the importance of having clean air, and I think once Johan fought him off through turn 1, Vesco's day was going to look a lot differently, and then as he said, I caught a little bit of a break by Johan getting that penalty, and suddenly he found himself in clean air, was able to manage the race, manage his temperatures, manage the tires, and he said we couldn't tell because it still looked pretty smooth from looking outside the car, but he said he was in trouble with the tires there at the end.
Yeah, and I liked how he kept saying this car was on fire, and I think he was talking about everybody was pegging those temps, and that was something that they had to be very aware of here. So that wraps up this 9th round of the Pirelli World Challenge Touring Car Championship from the Grand Prix of Utah here at Utah Motorsports Campus on a day that is just going to continue to get warmer. And it's interesting. And you take a look. Normally, you can see the mountains hazy in the background. They're big and clear. That's the haze from the California fires, and we certainly have our thoughts with all of the firefighters that are out in harm's way out there, and the families that may be feeling some of that as well. It's always a constant reminder here. There's a look at the breeze that we're dealing with here today, and it's good for the crowd to get a little bit of cool air, but for the drivers with the sand that comes across this track, it keeps it ever changing, and it's going to be a fascinating afternoon. And of course, we'll be back with you here as all of our races continue to unfold here live on the web. So do stay with us. Next race is scheduled to start. It should be a cracker of a race, the Sprint X GTS, next round of the championship. And do tune in and watch that with us here live on the web, or if you're with us at Sirius XM on radio channel 383 or app channel 983, come back and join us when we go racing with that one, and that'll be coming up here in just a little bit. It's lunchtime here at Utah.